Dr. Charles Stanley on income.
Said something like that, an hour.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so what you would have to factor in there is if you were to take Social Security early, you do have a cap for Social Security on how much you can earn without having your benefits reduced. And so that cap in 2024 was $22,320. I think it's slightly higher than that for 2025. And so if you went over that, then you would have your benefit reduced by $1 for every $2 you go over the limit. Now, you'd eventually get that back after full retirement age in the form of a higher check until you're fully repaid for everything that was withheld. But you just have to factor that in, that you are going to potentially get that reduction if you go over. Now, in terms of taking it early, you are going to get that permanent reduction at 62. And I think the downside of that is, that's locked in forever. And, when you don't have a lot of savings, what would be better is to get that Social Security check up as much as you can, because that then gives you obviously more income every month for the rest of your life. If you go ahead and take it at 62, if your full retirement age is 67, that's going to be a full 30% reduction in monthly benefits. So if your check was going to be $1,800 a month, now all of a sudden it's $1,260, and that's permanent. Now that you could get increases to that $1,260 through a cost of living adjustment, which everybody gets annually based on inflation. And the only other way would be is if you knock off some of those lower earnings years by continuing to work. But I would much rather you kind of dig back in, find another job if you have the health to do it, that's going to allow you to cover your obligations and let that Social Security check continue to grow, just because that's going to be a primary source of income, and that 30% reduction is something you're going to feel pretty significantly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay, yeah. So I would say my best advice, Wayne, is to delay that as long as possible. And if you've got the ability to do it, all the way to age 70 would allow you to get as much as 25% more than your full retirement age benefit, but at least until full retirement age. Keep in mind, folks, if your full retirement age is 66, taking it at 62 gives you a 25% reduction or thereabout. If it's 67, it's going to be a full 30% reduction. That's a lot of money. Wayne, hey, thanks for your call today and for your kind remarks about the program, sir. To Palm City, Florida, Kobe, how can I help?
Hey, good afternoon, Rob. Appreciate the program. Been listening back since the Larry Marquette days.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
I've got a 401k through work, and I believe it's pretty much invested in like high-risk type things, because when the market's good, it makes money hand over fist, but when it's not doing so good, it loses like big time. Through the company, it's called Empower. It used to be Prudential, and in their literature, that there's an area where it says if you need help investing. But I'm just wondering your thoughts as far as investing through that company, or I don't know if there's any other options as far as, since I'm still working with the 401k.
Yeah, very good. That's Empower is one of the largest retirement plan record keepers in the United States. So they, offer employer-sponsored retirement plans and the typical range of investment categories. You've got your target date funds, which are kind of the simplest way to make sure that as you're getting closer and closer to retirement, the mix of investments is automatically shifting from aggressive to conservative. Then you got your index funds, which track the S&P 500. And then there's actively managed funds, both on the bond and the stock side. And then kind of the run of other types of categories, large cap, mid cap, small cap, domestic, international, that type of thing. And then they do have managed account services where they will essentially manage your account for you. I wouldn't be able to say whether or not, what that has added in terms of a historical performance, and whether, Empower can justify the fees that they're charging and give you a better rate of return, because at the end of the day, that's what you'd be looking for, is somebody to outperform the indexes or the managed accounts, because you're going to have to pay for that service. So perhaps you reach out to them and just find out, what kind of data they can give you on how their performance has done versus the market. Apart from that, if you feel like you're being too aggressive, the target date fund could be a great option, where essentially you're still kind of in the broad market, but you're ensuring that as you get closer and closer to retirement, you're not too concentrated in stocks and therefore too aggressive. Does that make sense?
Sure. Is it like an average as far as percentage that they normally charge?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're charging somewhere between 1 to 1.5% a year if it's actively managed of the total investable assets. But that would be one of the first questions I would want to know. Kind of, can you give me some historical performance on how your managed account has performed versus the market and the other passive options, and what are your fees? Toby, I hope that helps. Thanks for your call. We'll be right back. Faith and Finance is grateful for the support of certified.
お父さん、今日ヨガクラス行ったら、あれね、外出ないようにね。外出ないように、お父さん。お父さん。
investmentwealth.com/Christian. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
How many people come to church and they're chained to a bitter spirit and all sorts of problems, chained to greed and selfishness? Even when they want to break free, they can't seem to break free. Worship Him and praise Him and let Him remove the chains.
Learn to break the chains forever through Christ. Join Pastor Jeff Shreve on From His Heart, weeknights at 6 Central, here on American Family Radio.
Faith and Finance is grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing. If you have money in an investment account, you know sometimes the stock market can seem like a roller coaster. But it's possible to enjoy both profit and peace of mind as a do-it-yourself investor, no matter what's happening in the market. A short video webinar about that is available at soundmindinvesting.org. Financial wisdom for living well. soundmindinvesting.org.
Financial fear is real, but so is God's promise to provide. At FaithFi, we know the daily stress of money can overwhelm your heart, but Jesus reminds us to look at the birds of the air. They don't worry, and yet our Heavenly Father feeds them. And look at the sparrows, a 21-day devotional. You'll find peace by focusing on God's faithfulness as you discover how to overcome financial anxiety with faith. Visit faithfi.com/sparrows and begin your journey with Look at the Sparrows today.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We believe true morality flows from biblical principles and directs people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
You're young. You don't go to the doctor that often. Yet health insurance is still so expensive. If your health insurance costs too much, maybe you should switch to an affordable alternative. Take charge of your healthcare with Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM offers programs starting under $100 per month. Check off the affordable box on your list and get back to what you really love, running your business or caring for your kids, and have peace of mind while doing it. Visit chministries.org/faithfi to enroll today.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
Hey, great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. So grateful to have so many of you that call into the program regularly and appreciate a couple of mentions already today of the late Larry Burkett. What a treat and a joy it was to be able to know Larry, and now to carry on his legacy on this program each day, which the ability to continue to equip God's people and encourage them with biblical wisdom on finance is just a real joy of mine, and I walk in some giant shoes, that's for sure. Let's go down to my hometown, Fort Lauderdale. Hi, John. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing today? I was just trying to figure out what would be the best way to kind of like either help my spouse start to combine our finances together, or like how can I have a conversation with her to let her know, like, hey, look, like it works if we put our money together than keeping it separate, because it always seems like you're out of money and now I'm out of money, and it's like burning up both ends. You're spending here, I'm spending here. Instead of we combine together, we can kind of have a plan. And I'm trying to, I just want to be better at it. So it's just really hard, and she's just not going for it. She's like, so what I want to buy you a special gift? Like, I don't know. And I'm like, God, it's just really hard. So I just want some advice.
Well, John, I appreciate that, and I think you're right to kind of lean into this. And the idea is that, this is going to require a lot of communication, a lot of openness, and a lot of trust. But isn't that what the marriage relationship is? You remember Jesus told us in Mark 10:7, a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. And I think that becoming one does extend to our checkbook, just like every other area of our lives. And so we've got to talk through that, and we've got to recognize that when we come into the marriage relationship, we're bringing our differences, and that includes our money differences. Our relationship with money, the way we view money, the way we handle it, how tightly we grip it or how loosely we hold it. A lot of that comes from not only how God has wired us, his thumbprint on each of us as our creator, and how he's created us uniquely in his image, but also our upbringing. I've read studies that say that a lot of the way we see and view money was in place by the age of 9, and it has to do with how plentiful or the scarcity of money in our homes, what was modeled for us. So we bring all that to bear in the marriage relationship, and then we need to try to put that together, and that's not easy without a lot of understanding of each other and how God has wired us, and then being able to appreciate the differences in our temperaments and so forth. But secondly, with a lot of open and honest communication as well. John, what do you feel like is at the heart of this? Is it really she's concerned about feeling kind of constricted or limited, or is there trust issues? What do you think is at the heart of her desire to keep finances separate?
Oh, she was more into, like, she does not want to have somebody count her money for her every time. And I tried to explain, like, I'm not going to count your money. I'm not going to look at your money. Hold on, you have this, but it's not about that. It's about kind of like, we take our bills, make it the decision how we're going to pay these bills, knock these bills out. So we have all the bills. You got a car payments, you have our rent, we have light bill, and those things taken care of. So anything extra you want to do, because she likes to travel, anything extra you want to do, now we can build and budget towards those things together, so you don't have to do it by yourself. And that's the kind of things I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, well, and I think that's key, and really we need to get away from the mine and yours mentality, because again, you guys are now one flesh. God's design for marriage is unity and oneness, and that certainly includes the finances. And what we say is that obviously we remain individuals, but that marriage partnership requires trust, it requires openness, it requires communication. That's especially true when it comes to the area of finances. And the challenge is when we keep everything separate, it fosters that mine and yours mentality. But when we put it together, it promotes trust, because neither of us are making hidden purchases, and everything is in full view. But that doesn't mean that you all can't be reflected in terms of your personalities and your interests and your passions separately. It's just that you step back as a married couple and say, okay, where is God leading us? And how can money be a tool to accomplish his purposes aligned with our values? And ultimately, where are we going? And then we create a spending plan that reflects both of you. And perhaps there's a portion of that spending plan that's just for her to do what she wants with. And there's a portion that's just for you, for the things you enjoy. But the big decisions are all made jointly. and in full view of one another. And I think that's the vision that you all need to bring to the table here. It's not about you scrutinizing it, and it's not about, I don't want you looking at my money, because the reality is, John, and this is, I think, an important truth for all of us, is that it's not either of yours. It's God's. It all belongs to him. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof and all that dwell therein. And that includes money, a gift from God that he has entrusted to us to be faithful with. And part of that faithfulness as now one flesh, a married couple, is to say, God, how do we surrender everything to your purposes? How much do we keep for us? And that means you all need to land on what your lifestyle is going to be. How much do we enjoy? How much do we use to provide? How much do we give away? But it's not a matter of each having your own accounts. It really should be viewed as one account. And I think mechanically, it should be combined into physically one checking and savings account. Because the moment you try to keep those separate, it's just going to foster that mine and yours mentality. Let's do this. Perhaps she'd be willing to work through a great resource in this area. It's a book called Money and Marriage, God's Way. It's written by my good friend Howard Dayton, the former host of this program. And, I think maybe your request of her is, listen, honey, I'd like to explore God's heart as it relates to money and marriage. I don't have all the answers, but let's look to his word. And I've been told this is a great resource for us to do that. And perhaps if you guys would work through that, maybe a chapter a week or something, and just be willing to hear her side of it. Maybe you both agree to pray and ask for God's wisdom as you work through it. And then on the other side of it, see if it doesn't change how you apply these principles in the daily handling of your money management decisions. Does that sound good?
That does sound good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, John. Let's do this. You stay on the line. Our team will get your information, and we'll get that book out to you right away as our gift to you. Again, it's called Money and Marriage, God's Way, and we appreciate your call today. Let's go to Chicago. Hi, Keith. Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. My question is, I have a 20-year-old vehicle, and it's usually about the time I start looking for a new vehicle. I've been fortunate enough to be able to buy new vehicles my whole life. But I run the wheels off of them, and so after 20 years, I'm in a position where I'm looking to get another vehicle. And I'm retired now, so leasing was never really an option for me during my working years, because I was primarily in outside sales and put a lot of miles on the vehicle. So I wanted to know between leasing now or buying, what makes more sense? Because I'm not afraid of leasing now, because I don't, the 12,000, 50,000 annually miles that they allow you was a concern for me when I was in outside sales, because I would blow through that in 6 months.
Yeah, very good. This is a great question, Keith, and I'm sure it's one that a lot of our listeners have. I'll answer it right on the other side of this break. Now, just a quick reminder is don't call in. Our team is not here today, but we have some great questions we've lined up in advance. Those will be coming just on the other side of this break. A quick reminder, if you'd like to support our work, you can do that on our website, faithfi.com. Just click give. More to come on Faith and Finance right after this. We'll be right back. Our thanks to Certified Kingdom Advisor Wade Chessman, President and Wealth Advisor, and his team at Chessman Wealth Strategies in Dallas for their support of Faith and Finance. Their goal is to help their clients expand their understanding of biblical financial principles and how to implement them. The website is chessmanwealth.com. The phone number is 214-572-2120.
お父さん、水持ってきた？水持ってきた？じゃあこれあれか、私の飲んでいいから。開いてない。忘れないように。水は大切だから。
Full of music and inspiration with guests Chris Blue, Lady Love Smith, Gene McDonald, Kevin Williams, and more. 16th at 6 p.m. in White's Chapel Methodist Church, South Lake. Tickets are available at tprlive.co.
Have you ever wondered where your money goes when you deposit it in a bank? Christian Community Credit Union believes in helping advance God's kingdom through everyday financial transactions. For over 67 years, they have provided values-aligned banking solutions to thousands of Christians and ministries. Consider Christian Community Credit Union as your banking institution by visiting joinchristiancommunity.com. Membership eligibility required. Each account is insured up to $250,000. This institution is not federally insured.
Thanks for having with us today on Faith and Finance on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. We're taking your calls and questions today. Before the break, we were talking to Keith in Chicago. He has a 20-year-old vehicle that's paid off. He's retired. He's always avoided leases in the past, but he's wondering for his next car, now that he's not driving as far and he could stay well below the annual lease requirements for the mileage restriction, should he at least consider it? If not, he would probably be financing it. And, I think, Keith, one of the keys to what you said, unless you're planning to make a change on this in your retirement years, that the fact is that you generally buy cars and keep them until the wheels fall off. I do the same thing. My car that I'm driving right now is a 2014, and the last minivan we turned in had 250,000 miles on it before we replaced it for our family. And so, I tend to take that approach as well. I generally buy new because I spend the time to research it. Last time I bought a new car, I flew 3 states away to buy it because I saved about $3,000 or $4,000. But it makes sense to buy it with 0 miles, get the full warranty, because I tend to keep them for a really long time. And if that's the case, your total cost of ownership is going to be lower, when you just buy it outright. That's just going to be the better option. You're getting around that significant depreciation that occurs, when you lease a car, and so you've got that pretty significant depreciation right when you drive off the lot. You're avoiding the fact that you are going to have to turn it in at the end of the lease or buy it out, and if you turn it back in, now you're starting this process over. So I think, given your approach, I would prefer, unless you have a business where you can take this as a deduction, I think the total expense that you're going to outlay over the life of the car is going to be lower with you buying outright versus leasing.
Even though, from what I hear, these new cars, the average now is $50,000, which is almost unbelievable. Yeah. Used to be able to buy a house for that.
Yeah, exactly right. It is wild, and the average car payment now is sitting at just shy of $800 a month, which is just mind-boggling. But keep in mind the fact that car prices are where they are, and a lot of that has to do with just the complexity of these vehicles. They're basically, we're driving giant computers these days. That's all going to be factored into the lease, because essentially you're paying for all of that depreciation based on the full value of that car for those first 3 years. And so that's going to result in a higher lease payment for 36 months because it's all pegged to the original purchase price plus the interest that they're going to bake into it. But then you don't have the ability with a car that you've owned and maintained and taken care of to continue to ride it out once it's been paid off into all those years where you no longer have any financing, you no longer have any car payment, and you get the benefit on the back end of a car that you keep for a long, long time. I think that's where you're still going to do better with buying.
Yeah, as long as I'm not one who has to be driving 2-3-year-old cars, so as long as that doesn't bother me. Like I said, I've always kept cars a long time, so you're saying even though with the cost, buy versus lease.
Yeah, exactly right. Because with car prices and interest rates rising, lease payments are higher due to the increased capitalized costs and money factors, that go into this. And so generally they've risen along with the car prices and the interest rates, because higher car prices equal a higher cap cost. That's the capitalized cost of the car. So the monthly payment is higher, and then the money factor is the interest rates, and so that increases the lease financing costs, which pushes up the monthly lease payments. And then, you've got the residual value can help some, because used car values are also high, so that can raise the lease's residual value, which slightly offsets the increase. But the net effect in today's market is usually higher monthly lease costs than in previous years. And so again, for somebody like you and I who buys cars and keeps them for a long time, I'd rather you get through that depreciation with a car that you're going to maintain well. You're not going to drive it a long time, a lot of miles each year. So it's going to last you for the next decade. You won't be looking at buying another car, for a long, long time. And that favors the purchase versus the lease.
Yeah. Well, I'm 73, so this will probably be my last purchase. So.
I don't know. I'll tell you, the Lord may not be done with you yet. You may still have another car or two in you, but that's up to Him, right? Hopefully that helps you, my friend. Thanks for calling today. Lord bless you. Cleveland, Ohio. Hi, Lisa. Go ahead.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking my call. I and my fiance are both retired teachers, and so we were overwhelmed with joy when we heard of the cessation of the windfall,
Yes. Yeah, windfall elimination provision.
Yes, exactly. And so it was the talk of the town, and now we've heard nothing. So when I was talking to your people about it, I just wondered, with you being connected into the world of finance, have you heard anything? We don't know when, perchance the money will be coming our way. Is this something we're supposed to be doing? We just don't know what to do at this point.
Yeah, you're talking about the Social Security Fairness Act, which was actually signed by President Biden just before leaving office on January the 5th. And to your point, it allows workers who had Social Security benefits reduced because they received a government pension, which included teachers and firefighters and police officers. That is now going away because it abolished what is called the windfall elimination provision and the government the pension offset. And so the typical increase is going to be about $360 a month for those workers that were affected by it. Now, the bad news is the Social Security Administration, based on the last we had seen, said that it could take up to a year to implement those changes. However, it should be retroactive, according to what we're seeing. They'll make you whole for those benefits you would have received starting, I believe, in the first day of this year. But it may take a year for it to work its way through the system before you start seeing that higher check.
Well, and that's my second question is, people are saying that the retroactive is going to be a separate check. Is your thought that it's going to be a separate check, or that it's going to be added in? I mean, either way, we're just thanking God, because for 5 years and mine was significant, and my fiance's even more so. I mean, they cut my Social Security by $600 because of the windfall, because I retired from STRS. So he was cut even more so than that. You go to your Social Security and they're like, hey, you're gonna take home $800, and then they go, oh no, because you're retired from STRS, you're gonna take home $200.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's incredible. I think to your point, we're hearing that it actually goes back all the way to January 2024 in terms of it being retroactive. And although they haven't said this definitively, I think most people believe it's going to be paid in a single lump sum payment that represents the retroactive benefits, as opposed to putting into a check that will be paid out over a long period of time. So all the way back to January 2024, and likely in one payment. But remember, they've got a lot of cases to review, and so it's going to take some time to process and distribute those retroactive payments.
Correct. Well, we can be patient.
Yes,
good.
Good.
See the light at the tunnel? Yes, we'll be patient.
That's right. I can understand that philosophy for sure. Well, listen, Lisa, all the best to you, and I'm delighted to hear that you guys are going to benefit from this. I'm a big fan of what they've done here with this Social Security Fairness Act. Thanks for calling today. Let's go down to Florida. Hi, Tracy. How can I help?
Yes, I was wondering, would I be able to file for bankruptcy to get rid of a judgment that was placed? I'm headed towards divorce, and we were sued for a car that my spouse crashed, and we have the judgment placed already, and they're moving towards wage garnishment. I understand I owe the money, but all the bills that we've acquired during marriage have been in my name, and unlike the previous caller, or similar to the previous caller, we did start out with combined income, and that turned into more debt with overdrawn bank accounts. So it's been separate, and as a result, everything is in my name, and now they want to garnish my wages, and I make maybe a third of what he makes. And I don't know what to do because I cannot afford that.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. Has the divorce been finalized? And do you have a...
No.
Okay, all right. So a lot of this is probably going to come out in that proceeding. I'd probably talk to your attorney about this. And he could or she could weigh in on this particular case. I would say generally, I'm not an attorney, but generally it's going to depend on the type of judgment as to whether or not the bankruptcy would wipe it out. If it's a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, it could eliminate a judgment. If it's for property damage or general property injury claim, something like that, there are non-dischargeable judgments. But again, I would get some legal counsel on this, because there's two issues going on here. Number one is, how is the divorce going to play out? And then number two, if I did proceed with bankruptcy, would the judgment be able to be wiped out? That would ultimately be something your legal counsel would need to advise you on. I will say, even though bankruptcy is not in the Bible, I think the key is, if this is something that's owed, I think we need to honor our obligations, and the goal there would be over time as you're able to get it paid off. But ultimately, from a legal standpoint, you really need to check with your attorney on this. I'm sorry I couldn't give you more definitive advice. Folks, thanks for being along with us today. I'm Rob West, and on behalf of my team today, this has been Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas.
Speak. What would he say? The Bible subjects itself to historical verification.
He says, we saw this.
We go to the Bible wanting to hear what the living God has to say to us.
When God speaks, what does he say?
The God who speaks. Visit stream.afa.net. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer decided to back House Republican spending bill that would avert a government shutdown, taking Congress and his own party by surprise. Iowa Congressman Zach Nunn says the Democratic Party can't make up their mind.
Shiftless Schumer is now taking a situation where just yesterday he was saying a Schumer shutdown was the only way to hold Trump accountable, to now we've seen complete Schumer surrender.
At least 5 people are dead after multiple cars were involved in an accident in Austin, Texas, with emergency responders rescuing trapped victims. Jessica Rivera with KTBC Fox 7 Austin reports.
17 people and 17 vehicles, including a semi-truck, were involved in this tragic accident this morning. Crews were able to quickly move those that were involved in the accident to a local hospital. Major delays. When crews arrived on scene, they upgraded the accident to a second alarm rescue. 11 people were transported to local hospitals. Crews were able to quickly transport these patients with serious injuries within 40 minutes. Crews worked to extract 3 patients that were pinned in their vehicles and then assisted Austin EMS with treatment of those patients.
President Trump poses eliminating income taxes on Americans making less than $150,000 per year. as well as on tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the president wants to tax other nations to make up for the tax revenue.
The sooner we balance that budget, the more we can all enjoy the possibilities that exist under Donald Trump's presidency. You know, he would like to replace the Internal Revenue Service with the External Revenue Service.
The Trump administration is forced to take a step back on its mass layoffs and asking the Supreme Court to step in. Madeline Rivera explains.
2 federal judges ordered the administration to hire back thousands of probationary employees. One judge saying the sheer number of employees that were terminated in a matter of days belies any argument that these terminations were due to the employees' individual unsatisfactory performance or conduct. The White House is promising to fight back. It's asking the Supreme Court to step in.
じゃあジムから出ないでね。わからなくなるから。今日10時、今11時から始まるから。
As we get into the early morning hours on Saturday.
Meanwhile, heavy snow and high winds in the Great Plains can make travel treacherous in the Dakotas and parts of Minnesota. More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Hey, we're announcing a weekend with AFA on Thursday, October the 2nd through Saturday, October the 4th. We'll have a weekend get-together with AFA leadership and supporters. It's a chance for all of us to get better acquainted.
It's a weekend with AFA, Thursday, October 2nd through Saturday, October 4th in Tupelo, Mississippi. Speakers will include Abraham Hamilton III, Jenna Ellis, Tim Barton, Tim Wildman, and more. Register at afa.net/weekend.
This is Trivia Friday. The number to call with your question or your answer to a question is 888-589-8840.
I'm saying that Abe Lincoln could dunk James Madison.
Oh, okay, that's what you're telling me.
Tell everybody in America, what's the name of that song?
It's a Hokey Pokey.
You're exactly right. Hokey Pokey.
From Flatwoods, Kentucky. Garbanzo beans.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trivia Friday on American Family Radio. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Friday, March the 14th, 2025. And I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Tagliano. Good morning, Professor Ed.
Good morning.